GamingBolt presents 15 games which require a full restart after one death. Some games are a walk in the park, a venerable trip to the baker's for some cookies. Others aren't nearly so kind. They don't want you to continue where you left off. No, once you die, it's back to the drawing board to do things differently and probably die again for all you know. Here are 15 games which require a full restart after one death. Some are nicer when it comes to meta items or storage, but once dead, you still start afresh each time. FTL Faster Than Light. FTL Faster Than Light will teach you many things about yourself. It's great fun to redirect resources from one part of the ship to another, bolstering shields at the cost of attacking when the situation calls for it. However, you'll probably kill some of your crew members, whether intentionally or not. Each time you die, it all begins again, except the galaxy is randomly arranged and the terror is fresh. Zombie U. Despite gimmicky Wii U features, a less than appealing aesthetic and a generally clunky vibe, Zombie U is pretty interesting with how it handled player death. If you died, you'd respawn as a completely different character with none of your stuff. To retrieve it all, you must kill the previous character who's now a zombie. Intuitive, if not much else. Risk of Rain. Unlike many other roguelike titles on this list, Risk of Rain isn't about scaling difficulty with each subsequent new area, but as more time passes. The main goal is to locate a randomly placed teleporter, then fight off enemies and a boss before heading to the next level. As 5 minutes passes, the level of enemies rises and they gain more health and do more damage. It's possible to unlock powerful items to discover in future playthroughs, but die and you're back at the beginning with nothing. Don't Starve. Survival again? You bet. But Don't Starve has a Tim Burton-esque aesthetic and a top-down view. The restart after death approach comes in adventure mode. As a campaign pitting Wilson against Maxwell, dying here will take you back to survival mode. While you keep the items unlocked for use in survival, this means restarting adventure mode from the very beginning with nothing. Spelunky. Part random generation, part handcrafted goodness, Spelunky is an enjoyable exploration platformer that encourages collecting treasures and avoiding traps. There are even damsels in distress to rescue, which can grant health every time you rescue one. That's good news, because every time your health is gone, it's back to the start for you. Rogue Legacy. Another interesting take on the roguelites genre was Rogue Legacy. While the castle and bosses would remain relatively static, every time the player would die, their heir would take up the blade. That heir would then inherit various abilities from his ancestors. At some points it was possible to have increased strength but slower movement speed, monochromatic vision and whatnot. You still have to start from the beginning each time though. DAYZ. Online survival game DAYZ has been fairly popular despite being in early access since December 2013. Along with surviving zombies and other players, you have to watch out for diseases and excessive bleeding. Each time you die, everything is dropped and you begin from scratch. It is possible to build a base for your items, and if you don't have one or it's breached and you die, be prepared to slog again. Our Darker Purpose. Our Darker Purpose takes a place in a dark orphanage where the kids are turning on each other, and sadly, you're the teacher. Much like The Binding of Isaac, there are perks to unlock, random areas that change when you die, and of course, starting from the beginning every time you die, which you most assuredly will. Being as morbid as The Binding of Isaac is no small task, but Our Darker Purpose handle things pretty well. Not the Robots. Picture this. You play as a robot that has to remain undetected in an office to eat furniture. The levels are procedurally generated and there are 7 buildings to go through. Heck, the game is even fully voiced because why not? Perhaps the least mysterious thing about it is that death causes you to start all over again, which seems befitting for a furniture-eating robot, somehow. Caves of Cud. Much like Dwarf Fortress, Caves of Cud involves exploration on a grand scale. You'll roll a character complete with its own class and kit, dig through a vast world, kill monsters, align with factions, and eventually figure out what it all means, or go crazy trying. but as the title of this video indicates, death is permanent. The only way to keep playing is by rolling a new character and going at it again. Diablo 3 Hardcore. Oh, Diablo. Diablo 3's hardcore mode is what separated the boys from the slightly crazier boys. If you died even once on your journey, there was no restarting. That character was permanently dead and memorialized in your selection screen. Diablo 3 is not a short game by any means, so factoring in all the loot to collect and the many possible ways to die, hardcore mode is a harrowing experience to say the least. STRAFE. Imagine Quake but with roguelike elements. That's more or less STRAFE in a nutshell. There are over 30 weapons to discover across 4 zones, but each time you die, it's back to the start. Between hopping, bopping, and trying to survive waves of enemies at any given time, it's hard to really develop a groove in STRAFE. Oh yeah, and the levels are randomly generated each time you respawn, further negating any advantage that memorization could provide. We Happy Few. With an aesthetic that mixes retro 60s with a Big Brother authoritarian government, We Happy Few is quite the crazy survival game. You're required to stay off joy, the happy drug as they call it, and avoid joy-infused citizens to eventually escape the city. Those who want a proper roguelike experience can toggle permadeath, which restarts the game with each death. When you factor in how the environments are procedurally generated each time, no 2 oppressed lives are the same. The Witcher 2 Assassins of Kings Insane Difficulty. Another variation on the hyper-difficult story campaign for a mainstream title, The Witcher 2 Assassins of Kings would require a brand new playthrough if you died on insane difficulty. This is because your previous save couldn't be accessed after dying. Like Diablo 3, considering how long the game is, this could mean a lot of effort gone to waste. Doom Ultra Nightmare Mode. Then there's Doom, which took its difficulty higher than Nightmare with Ultra Nightmare Mode. Once again, dying in this mode meant you were done and had to start a whole new playthrough. Apparently none of Bethesda's internal testers at the time could beat it, which makes sense when the average imp could almost two-shot you. The best part? You get literally nothing for completing it, not even an achievement or a trophy. And that wraps it up. If you like what we're doing, please consider subscribing to our channel. We upload new videos daily, so make sure you don't miss them by subscribing. We appreciate your support, and we thank you for checking us out.